Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for clicking on this Rank the Movies video. Alright, so this month I'm kind of looking at movies that are either just bad, so bad they're so bad they're good, and then ending with one movie I really, really hate. Last week we talked about Dungeons & Dragons, which I kind of hoped rewatching it would be so bad it's good, and it was just bad. So this week I'm going to look at a pair of movies. I said at the end of the last video that this movie was so bad, it actually made a great deal of money because people enjoyed it so much because of how so bad it's good it was. It got a sequel, and I'm talking about Jason Statham's Crank and Crank High Voltage. So yeah, let's get into these Crank films, shall we? Jason Statham plays Chilios. I've seen the first one once before this. I don't really remember that much from it. I couldn't actually remember if I'd watched both of them previously, or just the first one. As I was watching the second one, I realized, nope, I'd only ever seen the first one. But I know the trailers. I remember the trailers so well, with Jason Statham walking down a street going, "My name is Chilios, and today's the day that I die." I don't know, it was like attached to everything. Everything had that trailer on it. At the time this movie came out, the TV spots, the before movie, it was everywhere. They really pushed hard, and it did make a decent. I think it doubled its budget. So that's good. That's what you want to see a movie do. So Crank came out in the early 2000s. And it's about Chilios, who wakes up one day to find out he's been given a Chinese cocktail. They never really say what it is. They say what it does, but they don't actually give it a name. Basically, they say that it's cutting off parts of his brain and parts of his heart, so he's not sending adrenaline. So his heart isn't pumping the way that it should, and after an hour, he's basically going to die. Of course, Chit, being a professional hitman, and this is all happening because of the last hit he made, which was recently, like a day or two before. He killed a mafia boss named Don Kim, and this is the retaliation, is him not being given this cocktail. So he goes out to try to figure out, one, what's wrong with him, and two, to try to take revenge on the guy who gave him this cocktail. Because the guy didn't just, stick him and walk away. No, he needed to make sure Chit knew what was happening, so he left him a DVD explaining that he was going to die in an hour. Because, here's a well-renowned assassin who isn't going to figure out a way to stay alive. No, just stick him and let him die. Let him wake up and die. Don't give him a heads up. Oh yeah, by the way, you're going to die in an hour because we shot you full of this drug. Ha ha ha, you're gonna die. Because he doesn't die in the hour. He learns that as long as he can keep his adrenaline going, he can keep his heart pumping and he can stay alive. So that's what he does. He sets off on this weird adventure to try to figure out, to try to find the guy who did this to him so he can get revenge and hopefully get an antidote so that the drug will get out of his system and he can go about his life. In this, he ends up driving through a mall being chased by cops. He breaks into a hospital looking for epinephrine so that he can use it. Holds Glenn Houghton from It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia hostage for epinephrine in the hospital. He attacks a bunch of people because that's really all Chit is doing, is just going from one crazy situation to the next, trying to, one, keep his adrenaline going, and two, get to the guy who stabbed him. He even goes sees his own boss, who he finds out actually sold him out, is the guy who said, yeah, it was Chit who did it, this is where you can find him, and gave him the cocktail to the synthetics to kill him. Now, of course, Chit has a doctor friend, played by Dwight Yoakam, who is the reason he knows to keep his adrenaline going. And he has a girlfriend played by Amy Smart, who he leaves voice messages for because she doesn't have a cell phone. Eventually she joins the mix and they end up having sex outside in front of a Chinese restaurant over a mailbox. Because, gotta keep that adrenaline pumping. He also has a friend who is helping him out in this, who eventually gets killed within the movie. This is only important because of the sequel. His friend ends up getting killed, and he, through his weird world of trying to keep his adrenaline up, he eventually does find the guy. He meets up with the guy after killing his brother, after killing a bunch of his men. He finally meets up with him. But you learn throughout the movie that Don Kim, who he was supposed to kill, he didn't actually kill. He just told him to lie low for a few days because Chit was going to get out of the business. He was going to take his girlfriend and leave the city, leave the country, and just get the hell out of there and be done with it. And of course, that's not how it works out because they think Don Kim is dead. But Don Kim isn't dead. He shows up to assist Chit in the final act of the movie as Chit is stabbed with a second dose of the synthetic and pulls the dude who stabbed him, who drugged him in the first place, out of a helicopter, and they both fall to their apparent death. So there's a sequel. How the hell do you make a sequel to this? Well, did you say he survived falling out of the helicopter? That's step one. Step two, you have them remove his heart and then replace it with a fake heart that's only meant to keep people alive for a few days when they're in for a heart transplant. So now he's, instead of trying to keep his adrenaline up, he's trying to get electric shock so that he can recharge the battery to his heart so it'll keep pumping. Because again, he's only got about an hour to live if his heart, if he doesn't have that electrical charge. So he is just grabbing anything and everything with an electrical charge. This is also the movie where he has sex with his girlfriend on a horse track. As the horses are running, it's a weird scene. Like, it's pretty amusing, but it's a weird scene. And he's like trying to rub against people to get static electricity going so he can recharge his heart. He's, But yeah, it's such a weird movie because they wanted to make a lot of callbacks to the first movie, such as the friend that died helping Chit. You find out he has a brother played by the same actor, and he wants vengeance. And so they say, well, there's one guy who got away. His name is the Ferret, who apparently I don't know. After watching these movies back to back, I don't get this storyline of the Ferret and why the brother and why this is a connective thread. But it is, whatever. Basically, any character they could figure out a way to shoehorn in to the sequel, they did, including Glenn Howerton's character of the orderly who gets a gun shoved in his face when he's looking for epinephrine. He comes back for a seed, which is a great seed. It's a great seed he's in. But yeah, basically any and everyone they could have brought back for the sequel, they did in some way, shape, or form to continue on this movie. Because again, it's just about him doing all these madcap things to try to get his heart back. So he can get it put back into his chest and live life again. But yeah, you find out the brother of the dude who injected him with the synthetic from the first movie is trying to get his hands on Chit so he can kill him because he's also kept his brother's head alive in a fish tank. That happens. And yeah, it's this weird movie that just does so many, like, just because he's just grabbing electrical wires periodically throughout the movie, or he grabs a dog collar and starts shocking himself with it. But even then, like, it only lasts for, like, a scene. Whatever he does to try to recharge his heart does not last long. Those charges dissipate real quick, and he's got to find a new way to get his heart going, get that blood pumping. And yeah, Jason Statham is great in these movies, both of them. They even have, the second one has a Godzilla scene where him and somebody else, and it's actually people in suits that look like Jason Statham and the other actor in the scene, and they're fighting through a giant electrical plant, and then it zooms back into them as normal size, and it's just Jason Statham kicking this dude's ass. But yeah, he's great in this movie. Amy Smart's good in both of these. I get it. These are not these are not like great movies. These are stupid, awful, horrible movies that are just a lot of fun to watch. Like just because of just those plots, you know, just the through line of the plot of Crank and Crank 2. It's just it's I don't know. I know Crank 2 didn't do as well as the first one, which is sad because I think the electricity angle, man, it plays itself up way more. Yet they never tried. They used a defibrillator in the first one to get his adrenaline up, and he never tries a defibrillator in the second one, just for the electrical charge, which I think was a you know, I like how they used Glenn Houghton's character because he is the one who shocks him in the first one. I feel like they could have just somehow, because he jumps into the back of an ambulance looking for a new battery for his fake heart, which for some reason the ambulance has. Um, and I just feel like you could have had Glenn Houghton be in the ambulance and have him have to shock Jason Statham again to recharge the battery. I think that could have been a really cool idea. I still like what they did. Overall, like I said, these are two pretty amusing movies. They're just hard to explain. Like, they're hard to break down and explain unless I was taking notes on what happened in each scene of these movies. Because that's just it. You would have had to have I would have had to have been taking copious amounts of notes to really get into it. Because I just finished watching them and everything just like, dear Lord, all this stuff just happens in these movies. And it's just Jason Statham kicking ass and being a badass for like 3 hours of film. And again, these aren't great movies. These are just fun movies. These movies are so bad that they are so enjoyable. Like, the fact that they are such bad movies is what makes them so enjoyable, is why people still watch Crank movies, is what makes them great. I'm glad I sat down and rewatched both. Rewatched Crank and watched High Voltage for the first time. I'm glad, like I said, I'm glad I finally sat down and did it. These movies are way better than Dungeons and Dragons. Just as far as the entertainment value in them, they are way better than Dungeons and Dragons. But yeah, they're a lot of fun. If you've never seen the Crank movies, go check them out. You can find them in 2-packs. This one is the Legends. This is an Expendables 2-pack that they released of the movies when the first Expendables movie came out. But there are other 2-packs of them out there that aren't this. You can also find them, not to stream anywhere, but you can find them on like Vudu and Amazon Prime to rent. They're a good time. They're definitely, if you just want to like turn your brain off for an hour and a half or 3 hours if you're going to watch them both, they're fine. They do it so they just do it so well. All right, well, next week I move on to another movie that is said to be very, very bad. It's one I've never seen before, or at least haven't since I was a very small child. I kind of have very vague memories of maybe this was on a TV once when I was like 6 or 7, but I just can't remember, and I got like a still image in my memory. Because we're going to watch a Robin Williams movie. And you're probably wondering, well, Robin Williams only makes good movies. He's never made a movie people think is bad. Well, you'd be wrong, because he made Popeye. That's right, I'm going to watch Popeye, and that's going to be my review next week. So, tune in for that. It might be good, it might be bad. I don't know, I haven't watched it yet. I've never seen it before, outside of, like I said, maybe when I was a small child, and I don't remember it at all. So yeah, tune in next week for that. Otherwise, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to make sure you don't miss any comments, to make sure you don't miss any content. I am Martin Prevost. This is Rank the Movies. It's been nice talking to you this week, and have a good one.